And what is up, everybody? All right, today is September 11th, 2017. That is right. It has been 16 years since the tragedy in New York, the Day of Remembrance, and for the most part, 16 years since I almost had a front seat, view of everything happening. If you watch my documentary, New York Used to Be, emphasis on used to be. Like, I'm going through New York City explaining certain things, how when I used to go there frequently, certain things used to be there, certain things that I depended on being there. And then within less than 10 years, everything was gone. And that all started with the World Trade Center. And like, not even, like, even Toys R Us Times Square is gone. And Toys R Us Times Square, like, one of the biggest attractions that actually no, it originally, one of the attractions that they were going to have for it was they were going to have a giant Lego construction of the World Trade Center, and they had to scrap that idea. Personally, it's like, yeah, you should have done that. And then everything with, for the past, I don't know how many years, especially when there's like, okay, what we're gonna do is, like, here's the new models for the what we're gonna build. Instead of, we're not gonna build it as high so that God forbid, something like this was to happen again. And nobody was happy with it. We wanted the towers back. It was the Twin Towers. It's like, one of the great symbols of New York City, one of the great symbols of the United States. And it's like, just rebuild them. And they weren't going to do it out of fear. And that's very, oh, these are freedom towers. Oh yeah, this is to show our freedom, but we can't get the Twin Towers back. That doesn't make any sense. And all these conspiracy theorists talking about, oh yeah, industrial steel doesn't melt unless it's at, this many degrees, and jet fuel only heats up to, this much, so that's impossible. They A blacksmith had gone through the trouble of explaining. He took a piece of industrial steel, heated it up to a temperature less than what jet fuel burns as, at the temperature, the hottest temperature that jet fuel could burn up to. He heated the steel up to a much lesser temperature than that, and takes his pinky, just his pinky, and then easily bends the piece of steel. So that argument was invalid. And if that's not an, if that doesn't, if that doesn't knock out that argument as well, what happened to the people on the plane? I remember for the 1 year anniversary, Maury had people who had who had loved ones, either crash into the towers, or the one that didn't make it, the United 93. And one of them was employed by the Backstreet Boys. This guy worked with the Backstreet Boys. Are you going to say that the Backstreet Boys weren't on this conspiracy? Because what happened to all those people? I'm pretty sure it, like, seriously, especially with the way the government's been, and of all these people were paid off. Don't like, especially now in this day of victimhood, don't you think somebody would have came forward saying, "Oh yeah, I got paid off to say that my love, I got paid off to disappear. I got paid off to abandon my family. I got paid off to play like this is real." None of that's happened. This was a real tragedy. It's sad, and I'm and and unfortunately, with all that had been with all that had happened that day, um, uh, it is just it was heartbreaking. Like me standing in the middle of Times Square, watching on the big jumbotron, these huge pillars of smoke and dust that used to be the Twin Towers. You should watch my documentary, New York Used to Be. It's on this channel. And the more, that especially that day and the days to come, the more and more I wanted to get away from it. The more and more everybody just kept shoving it in my face. And the year later it was the same. And just like with any pain of a tragedy, it's like you never get over it. You just get used to it. And it took a little while for me to get used to this pain, and it was it was shocking, very very shocking. You never think that something like this would ever happen. And then of course when it happens, it's close to home, and for you to be there, to pretty much witness it, was pretty bad. And this many years later, people are still dealing with the shock and awe of it. So, I love my country. I love New York, and that's not why I joined the Marine Corps, not in the least. But today is a day to show patriotism. A couple years ago, when I was in LA, someone said, it's September 11th. We didn't do anything. And I said, no, we did something. We kept on living. We kept on being American. I'm done talking. You guys have a good night.